Welcome to the introduction to Tools System Integrator. My name is Jeff Oakes. Tools System Integrator. My name is Jeff Oakes, and I'll be the one giving you the tour today. We're going to start with a brief high-level overview, and then we'll jump into the actual details of the software and show you how the whole process works. For anyone that's not familiar with D-Tools, we've been working with low voltage integrators now for just over 22 years. We do primarily work with security and AV integration companies, and we've done so with over 6,500 companies worldwide. We also integrate with a lot of the industry standard platforms. For the drawing side of things, we work with both AutoCAD and Visio. We do work with a lot of other standard accounting systems such as QuickBooks and also other ERP platforms such as Salesforce and NetSuite. And with that, we've continued to have double-digit growth year over year and continue to expand more and more as the low voltage industry standard. There's a lot of issues that we solve when working with the integration companies, and you may identify with some of these that you see here on the screen. A lot of times companies have tools in place, whether it be Excel or formal software platforms. Obviously, they get the job done, but they do come at the expense of double or triple entry, which ultimately eats away at time and margin on projects. It also does open up room for error. Also, not having a centralized product database and pricing, that's certainly one of the areas that we help with quite a bit. And also just, ultimately just not having a scalable process and standards across the team. So if you got people using different programs or multiple offices using different tools, this does allow you to get everyone all on the same page, which ultimately does help with communication too across the different teams, especially as things progress through the project and all the way down and through service as well. So there's three main areas that D-Tools SI focuses on. So one of the areas we'll talk about today is really the sales and project estimation side of things. Within the system, we have a huge product library. It's actually the largest database in the industry for low voltage items. And you can download from that product library. And we do have integration with over 100 vendors as well with your dealer costs that can be set up through price feeds inside the system. You can simply drag and drop. With the items, we also have the ability to store labor with the parts. So as the equipment gets added, the labor adds up, which really helps, once again, with the speed of creating proposals and also accuracy as well. Now, the output of the system today, we'll go through a few samples today as far as reports go. Keep in mind that all the documentation in our system is customizable, so we can really make it look or feel any way you want. So if you do have a proposal template or design that you've set up that it's working for you right now, but it's just very manual, in a lot of cases we can replicate that and set that up as a D-Tools report. Now, all of our documentation too can be completely paperless, so you can actually send out your documents. They can be reviewed online. They can e-sign the documents, and we also keep the sales team in the loop with the process as far as how things are going when the customer looks at the documents, when they request changes, etc. Now, inside the package, we do also allow you to track CRM activities. So when you do get a new opportunity, those can be entered in. You can actually track those on some visual dashboards that we have, and you can track it from lead to prospect to close. And of course, after that, we can of course manage from the service side as well. Now, the other area that we do focus on beyond the estimation side of things is the engineering piece. Now, for engineering, this is something that we've really done since day one, is loop in the drawing side of things with the bill of materials or equipment list on your projects. So what's nice is you have really two ways of building a project within D-Tools SI. One is you can start with the equipment list first and then drag and drop into the drawing, into AutoCAD or into Visio. Or what's really nice is we give you the flexibility of actually starting with the drawing. So you can actually begin with designing the system visually first, and you could lay things out on a floor plan. You could start building a rack, doing a wiring diagram, or something as simple as a one-line drawing. And as items hit the drawing page, it actually gets added to the bill of materials. So you can literally draw it and then you get your equipment, your labor estimation, everything happening in the background for you. So at the end of the day, the drawings are all tied into the rest of the documentation, which means there's no discrepancies between, the drawings and the bill of materials. They always match. And that also comes in extremely helpful post-sale. So once the customer signs off, we've got a project, we're managing it. As revisions and changes happen, we have a really solid revision and change order process inside the software. So if someone goes in and adds a part or removes a part or swaps an item out, it'll change everywhere. So whether I change it on the drawing or whether I change it in the list, all the drawings, all the documentation gets updated real time. So once again, no issues or discrepancies or miscommunications when it comes to changes. And we'll talk about that a bit today. And then the third area we're going to touch on is really project management and service. So once the project's been approved, we do have, as I mentioned, a process for managing all the revisions and changes, but then we can also take it further and put together a schedule for the project and build the Gantt chart. And we can also publish out the tasks and installation details to the technicians. Now, we do have a field program called Mobile Install, which is designed for technicians, allows them to track their time, take photos, make notes, make field changes, out in the field on the fly if needed, get sign-offs from the customer. So it really gives the technician everything they need to do to effectively manage and do their job out in the field, while also keeping project managers back at the office updated on the progress and what's going on. Now, of course, part of this, once the project's been completely, commissioned and handed off to the customer, that's when service kicks in. And we don't just stop there. We do have the ability to, estimate and sell service plans or service agreements through the system, and also manage all of the service work. So there's a dedicated area just for managing service orders within our system, and all of those service orders can be associated to any service agreements that you have, so everything is managed nicely. And of course, mobile install as well, used for the service technicians out in the field, so they can once again track their time, update the status, and view notes all from out in the field if needed. So we'll touch on that today as well. So our next step is really to jump into the software, and let's show you what DTools here is all about. All right, so we'll move over here to the SI platform. Now, what we're looking at now, this is actually the homepage of DTools System Integrator. And this homepage here is actually customizable. So you can actually create your own dashboards and layouts here to look any way you want to based on your role or your position in the company. And I've got a few samples up here on the screen. You'll see I've got the sales here, the sales numbers here so far year to date. I've got some leads over here that I'm managing. And then down below, if I'm also, involved with the service side, I may want to see all of our open service orders or service tickets, as well as anything that may be overdue or pending. And then we can keep going here. I've got a few other samples. If I'm a project manager, I may want to keep on top of all the pending change orders that I'm working on. And then once again, sales activities such as lead count, lead sources, and things along those lines. So really, depending on what your role is, we've got dashboards that are either in the system ready to go, or the ability to create those yourself, all in the business analytics area of the system. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier that I do want to touch on is our catalog. And we've got this huge library that you can tap into for setting up your database here within the system. We've got thousands of manufacturers here on the left-hand side. You just simply go through, find the brands or product lines that you work with, and you can go and download from those vendors. Now, this is a joint effort. We actually have partnerships with over 150 vendors directly, and then we also have our own full-time data team that's going out, building and adding products regularly. On average, we usually add or update around 30,000 products per month inside of this library. Now, in addition to the DTools library, there are some additional libraries available at the top, which you'll see. And we have the AVIQ library for the commercial AV side. We're also the data partner for PSA. So if you are a PSA member on the security side, you would get access to all the product lines through them, as well as all the pricing feeds. Now we do have, as a part of our relationships, we do also have currently, as of this video, 129 vendors who are actively participating on the pricing side. Now with this here, how it works is you go to the vendor that you want to work with and you click connect. And what happens here is you put in your account number, your billing zip code, and that actually gets verified on the vendor side. Now, once you get verified, that's going to open it up to get price feeds. So your specific dealer cost will be sent through the interface here, and you can choose the frequency of how often you want that to be updated or checked. We can do that daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you prefer. Now, it's not just individual brands in this. We also do have relationships with some of the key distributors in the industry. So you can go to the distributor and you'll see that does represent quite a few brands or product lines within there, which once again, just a matter of getting connected up here, and then you'll get your price feeds within the system. So once those items are downloaded, those items get placed into your catalog. So when you're building a project inside of the D-Tools system, you're only seeing the items that you work with inside the software. Now the catalog is going to consist of products, labor items, and packages, or basically pre-built systems or assemblies. So we'll take a look at products here first, and what I'll do is I'll open up an item here so we can take a look at it. And it doesn't matter what the product is. If you're on the security side, this could be a card reader, this could be a camera. If you're on the fire side, it could be fire pull or smoke. On the AV side, once again, speakers, things like that. So it's all, no matter the type of product, you're going to see the same core information available here on the item details. So we have the manufacturer, model, category. Also, we do put an image in there, which can be used a few different ways. We can do simple one-line drawings with the pictures. We can include the images on the proposals or other documents. We do also allow you to organize your equipment or your database into system types. So if you do, offer different disciplines or system types to your customers, you could break down, okay, this is the audio, this is the security or surveillance system, and really kind of give them a quick picture of what all the system costs would be. Product descriptions, this is another part of our library. We try to put a short and a long description in there for you. And of course, you're more than welcome to edit any of this stuff here. It's all really designed to give you a head start on getting your system set up. You've got a place for your pricing, so a place for cost and also a place for selling price. Now, depending on where you're located, we do support multi-currency. So I'm in the US, so you'll see everything in US dollars today in the overview. But keep in mind, it will be localized to your currency and also to your measurement settings as well. So we've got cost, sell price, margin, markup. Now, the system does allow you to create multiple price types inside the system. You can activate these. So if you do have different customers that you work with, where you either have negotiated rates, or if it's government versus standard, commercial client, you can choose the options that you want, and that can be even linked to the customer file here inside the system. Now, some other things I'll just point out, we do also track labor times on each part. So if you do download a product from our library, we will have an industry standard time associated to that part. Now, you're once again more than welcome to edit that, and this time here will get multiplied by your rates that you have inside the system. So I'll give you a quick preview here. So as you can see here on the labor side, you can build in different types of labor into your rate, so you can really create a loaded rate here inside the system. So I've got my base install time in here at 1.5 hours, and then the rate I've got in. And then I've also got a little bit of time allocated for management design. So for every install hour I sell, I'm also going to have a 10% add-on for management time and 10% for design or engineering time. So you can build that into your rates so it's more accurate for your business. We can also manage purchase orders through D-Tools. We've got the ability to, create one-off POs or even bulk create all your purchase orders for the project once it's completed. So we can track all of your vendor information and typical order quantities in here to make that process much easier. We do track all the technical details, the specifications, the height, width, and depth, weight, power consumption, and all of this is really useful for the drawing side. especially when you're building elevation drawings and want to put something into a rack. You want to make sure it's going to fit properly before you order the equipment. So this does allow you to drag and drop, snap it into place, and make sure it works. We could even give you rack load reports too, adding up things like weight and power so you can get those calculations quickly at your fingertips. You've got your inputs and outputs in here, which is really for speeding up the schematics or wiring diagram side of the system. Now, what's nice about this is as you do your wiring diagrams, the system is tracking all of your connections. So when I snap it to a particular input or output port, it's actually recording it on a wire schedule or checklist that we generate in the background. It's also auto numbering all of our wires and actually creating all the labels that we need to for installation, which is all configurable, and we do work with most of the industry standard labeling printers out there as well. Some other key things I'll point out, accessories. This is another nice feature of the platform where we can actually associate other parts and labor to the item. So whenever I sell this part, I'm also going to get prompted to include programming time and also a vent panel. So I don't have to worry about going and looking and searching and trying to figure out what other part I need to include with this. It's all right here that I can get prompted for. It also helps eliminate, mistakes of forgetting stuff. So it's easy to forget, a rack kit or rack screws or just little things here and there that really add up and eat into margin on projects. So you can build that stuff in and even make some of these items mandatory here if you'd like. Couple of things, last thing I'll point out here on a product, we do have the ability to store alternates. So if you've ever wanted to really show the customer an upgrade or downgrade option or different scenarios, this allows you to do that all within one proposal or one quote. So you're not having to create multiple projects to show those options. And all your historical data would be in here too. We show you how many of these we've sold, how many you have out there on open projects that haven't been sold, including the average cost, average sell price, and average labor time too for this item. So a lot of good information here at your fingertips on any of the products here. Now, in addition to products, as I mentioned, we do also track the ability to do labor items. You can just simply throw in labor charges into projects, and you can also pre-create packages. So, this could be a complete room setup or a common system that you sell. So the whole idea here is you create it once, and you're not having to recreate the same things over and over again here in the software. So let's go hop over to the project section and let's show you what that looks like. So you've got a place here inside the system where you can see all of the projects that you're working on. And then down below, all of your files are going to be here in the listing below. And so let's go create a new project here and show you how that actually works. So we'll start here and open this up. Now there's a lot of information that you can put in here, as far as the pre-setup on a project. Now feel free to skip what you don't need. You can always come back and edit this later and add to it as needed. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go up here to client name, and you can choose from a list of existing customers. And we do, integrate with some other programs like Outlook and QuickBooks, and there's some other over 20 additional integrations that we have available as well via our API. So we've got our project name in, so we'll go ahead and call this, call it sample test, something very creative there. You can choose what your status is going to be, and these statuses, once again, are customizable, so you can set this list up with your status names, and you can even have workflow rules set up in the background to create automatic notifications or triggers inside the system based on this. So let's move it down to estimating here. You can assign the different roles, so I can go in and choose myself here. I can go in and assign a PM and design engineer if needed. Or perhaps, I just need to have an engineer requested so that can then alert the team, and then somebody can jump on it and help me out with this project. Now, from a management standpoint, as far as the pipeline goes, when I did choose the status here, it also has a probability of close linked to it. So for sales forecasting and pipeline reporting, this can be used very easily for that, as well as we can set other things too, like estimated close date, and then of course later on we'll track the actual dates as things progress here. Now when I'm setting up this project, I may want to change the price tier that I want to use, so I can choose that from a drop down, and that can be linked to the customer. So if that customer does have, once again, a negotiated rate, it'll automatically default to that here in the system. So next we've got contacts. Now this could be other contacts that we're going to be working with on the project. It could be architects, GCs, electricians. We can choose the appropriate contacts here and add those in so we have them all in one place. The next we have the ability, of course, to get your site and billing address. And then for taxes, we do have the ability to do a live tax lookup. Now this right now would just be for the North American market, but you can come up here and you can choose your tax rate. We'll do a quick lookup here. We can validate it against the Postal Service here, and then that will pull down the correct tax rate here for us based on that area. So, and you can do this with the, included integration with Avalara, which is no additional cost to you. And there's also a premium service too that you can use if you like. We also have the ability to assign project resources. So if there's other people that you want to loop into the project and give them access, you have the ability to do that here. And that's once again related to permissions and notifications, so we can keep everyone in the loop as far as what's happening on the project as it moves from one step to the next. We also have the scope of work. So for the scope, you can certainly copy or type and paste, copy and paste in here. You can also drop in what are called snippets. And these are basically prefabricated descriptions that you can set up. And you can really use this throughout the whole system in different areas. So the whole idea here is you just got text that's set up and stored in here. And that way everybody can pull from it and access it for setting up a scope. So once again, whole idea here is to keep you from having to recreate the same things over and over again. Now, locations is another big part of setting up a project, and this once again can be set up or managed later on, so it doesn't have to be done at this stage. But adding locations, you can either type in locations or you can choose from locations that you've set up before. So if we've got let's say an entryway, hallway, go grab a couple locations and drop them into the list. There's also the ability to pull from location setups you've done in the past. So I can come in here, I can grab this one, drop it in, and you'll see there's a location setup that I've done before. Now with these locations, you can actually configure these and move things around as I just did there. So we can do things like campus names, building names, floor names, room names, even down to a rack or panel name. So you can get very, very detailed with this and capture all your scope and internal notes here for each location as you go. So we also have the ability to do payment terms or payment schedules. We'll break down all those numbers on the contract for you, and you can always go up here and edit those if you need to. And then last but not least, there's really custom fields. So if there's anything else you want to track, we do give you 30 fields here that you can set up and configure the way that you want. So things like Wi-Fi passwords, building codes, anything else you can add here can be added to reports and added to drawing templates inside the system. So it gives you just some extra flexibility there. So that's all of your setup options for creating a project. And from here we can really dive into putting equipment into this one or two ways. We can do it from a list perspective first and then later bring that into a drawing. Or as I mentioned earlier, we can start right with the drawing first, and that actually creates the list for you as you do your layout. Now, common question comes up, what is the right way to do it? Should you do a list? Should you do a drawing? And really the answer is it really depends. I mean, it depends on your preference. It probably is going to depend on the type or size of project that you're doing. So, there is no right or wrong way. A lot of times we find that users of the system sometimes will start with a list, and then if it's a more complex project or larger project, they may tend to start with the drawings first, just to lay things out, make sure we account for everything. So, the good news is we give you that flexibility and don't force you down a particular route that you have to follow every time. So to add items to a project, you got your locations over here on the right that we set up previously. You got on the left-hand side these three tabs for products, labor, and packages that we can pull from. And it's really easy to do. You just open up the window here, and then you can do a search and find the items that you want. And these windows, you kind of slide them out. You can actually configure which fields are in here. So let's go grab an item. We'll start with the part that we looked at earlier. So we'll just type in part of the model number here. So We find the item that we want, we drag and drop it into a location that we want here. We'll say rack 1, and then that now prompts me for some accessories. So I'm getting prompted for vent panel, so I'll go ahead and add that in there, and that now drops into the project. Next, let's go grab something else. Now, the good thing about the search is you can search on really all of the fields if you want to, and it makes it easy to find things. If I just want to, type in the word speaker, it shows me all my speaker options. I could also type in the word ceiling or wall or a brand name, just any keywords, and that will continue to trim down my search results based off what I have in my database here. So I'll select the item here, and we'll drop it into a few locations. So adding it to multiple locations is easy. Just go check off all the locations that you want it to go into. You can adjust your quantity here if you want, and it's really just a matter of drag and drop in. Now, this particular device here had some accessories. We had so we've got a couple things going on, a back box for the ceiling. We've got the cable that we like to use, and I've got an optional accessory I can choose to check off and add if I need it. So we'll put that in there. Now, since we're adding cable, we can also adjust wire lengths on that cable. So if I want to bump that up to 150 feet, or if you're outside the U.S. and dealing with meters, does support that as well. And that now drops into the list. So we start to get an equipment list put together here with all the different items that we need. And if I, once again, need to come over here and grab another part or even a pre-built system or package, I can do that. Let's go throw a camera in here real quick too. So let's say we want a access camera. We'll grab that and we'll throw that into these different locations as well. Now you can double click on the item. That'll open it up if you want to check out all the details that we talked about earlier. But let's go ahead and drop it in. We're good on that. So we'll add our add-on items. We'll put in our cable here, and that now, once again, gets dropped into the project. So it doesn't take long to start building this up. You start putting your parts in. You can see your overall pricing and labor time up top. And depending on how you have this set up, it'll also start to organize this into locations and systems here for you in this grid. Now, from here, if you do want to make edits or changes, you can simply go in and just change the price of an item. If I want to change this to a different price, I can. And I did have a warning on one of the items here, which is this one, and I can see why. We've got a negative margin there, so let me go ahead and fix that. So it does warn you and try to catch those mistakes before you, save it, publish it, send it off to the customer, and of course, realize that later. So it's all built in as some checks there. So you put your items in, you lay it out the way you want. This whole grid here is 100% configurable, so you can choose which columns and fields you care about and create your own personalized layout or experience here based on that. So that's how the list gets built. Pretty straightforward. Just search, find your part, put it where you want it to go, and that gets added here to the job. Now next, what would happen, let's say I want to start putting this stuff onto a drawing page. Let me show you what that looks like here. We'll go ahead and close that out, and then we'll jump back over here to our project where we can start building a drawing. Now for drawings, we do work with Visio and or AutoCAD. You can actually use both platforms all within the same project here, the same system. So we'll go ahead and choose our drawing size here, and this will launch it up. So I'm going to start with Visio, and the whole process here works the same for AutoCAD. It is going to be working natively in AutoCAD, so it is a DWG file. If you're an existing Visio user, once again, working natively in Visio, and you'll just be dragging and dropping in the environment that you're used to working with. So let's go ahead and turn off that grid. Now your company name and details will show up here at the top right, along with the client name and project name. So everything that we did setup-wise earlier is going to flow through to all the documentation here to save us some time. And what we're going to do is just show you how this works. We're not going to go through, and I won't do all the drawings. I'll just drop a few things on the page, and I'll show you some completed drawings that we can explore together. But if you did start with the equipment list first, you're going to be able to pull up this project editor window, which is the parts that we added into the project earlier. And I can just go through and select the items here that we want to put into the drawing. So I'm just going to grab a couple speakers, a couple runs of cable, and that amp here. Drop some onto the page, and then I can just lay these out where I want them to go on the page. Now, as I'm doing this and making connections, it is remembering those connections here on the page. And this is the most basic or simple of the drawings that we do. It's called a line diagram. So it just brings out the images so you can do a quick high-level visual. And then based on this, if I need to make any changes, if I want to copy and paste another speaker in here, it'll add another one of those items here to the bill of materials. And to show you that, how you would do it from a drawing perspective first, if we had started this and didn't have anything in this list, it's really the same process for starting with a drawing first. You just go check off the locations where you want the equipment to go, like rack 1 and 2. I'll come over here to my product database, and I'm just going to add a rack to the project since we didn't do that earlier. And then once again, grab the part and then just drag and drop it right into the drawing. So by doing that, that's going to add the 2 racks here to my drawing page. And then over here, you'll see those 2 racks have now been added to this project. It even puts a little blue dot here so we know which items are on the drawing page and which ones are not. Good thing is it's in an effort to help try to make this as foolproof as possible. If I try to drag a rack out here that's already on the page, it won't let me do it. So you can't trick yourself into thinking, okay, I've got 2 racks in there, we're good, and then find out later you only put 1 in the bill of materials. The system, if it's on the drawing, it's got to be tracked in the project. So once again, avoiding mistakes and speeding things up all at the same time. Now, adding items, it's a matter of drag and drop. I can drag and drop my item here. I could drag and drop a switch or NVR into the rack, and it's going to be to scale. So you just drag it, snap it where you want it to go. And you can also, in the settings, choose, do you want something to be more detailed and graphical, or do you want something just a simple outline of the box that's to scale? So you can do it a few different ways based on your preferences. So that's how it works from a drawing perspective. You can start with a drawing, you can build from the list into a drawing. We try to make it as easy as possible by automatically scaling the items, showing you the IOs, giving you all that background detail, which is very manual in most cases. So I'm going to show you a few examples here. I'm going to go here to a project that's got some items on it. So this is that line diagram that we saw earlier. Just brings out the pictures here. Very simple, clean layout, very client friendly. You've also got the ability to do floor plan layouts, and we can bring in CAD files, and also we can convert and actually scale PDF drawings too for things like Visio. And of course, if you're in AutoCAD, you can just work with the CAD plan natively there. But all the devices get unique IDs. All of the cables get numbers and everything. And so you can show things like projections of cameras and projectors as well on the plan. So it can be really good for planning. And we also have the ability to do measurements across a scaled plan to estimate wired distances and lengths as you're building the system up. We also have the ability to do elevation. So we saw this earlier. Here's just a completed rack. So we can see we've got the front view and the side view of the rack visible here, so we can check our depths as well as the stack here. We can also show the rack units to make it easier for the install team out in the field. And of course, rack load reports I mentioned earlier, all available up top that you can check out. And then the other part of this, we'll jump over to maybe a schematic here. And the schematic is where we get into the inputs and outputs of the device, so you can actually see what's being connected where. And once again, wire numbers are all automated based on your preferences. The cables are colored based on your preferences. What's nice is you can also remove IOs that you're not using just by simply right-clicking and turning that stuff off here. So a lot of little enhancements that people commonly look for or have to do manually, we can just turn that stuff on and off with just from right-click here inside the system. So this gives you a great drawing that's used for installation. It's great for service, and like so we can do this usually in a big fraction of the time what it would take to do manually there. So that's an example of the drawing. Like I said, we can do the same thing from AutoCAD. If you're working in the security industry, it's a lot of similar stuff to what we just went through earlier. You've got camera layouts. You can do things like camera plans, interior and exterior. And we do have all of the industry standard shapes and blocks in here for both AV, fire, access control, and surveillance, and alarm. So if you do floor plan layouts, everything will be according to industry standards as far as the icons and layouts go. So, once again, just speeding things up. We can usually save most engineers at least half the time as far as building drawings out, and of course all the other advantages too of the changes and stuff being tracked automatically through this. So once the project's been set up, we'll go back to the project that we were working on here earlier, and let's go back here to this one. We'll go ahead and save our progress here. Now, as far as presenting this to the customer, we can pull this up and basically run a report and give that customer as much or as little detail as we want to at this stage. I'm going to come over here and let's do let's run one of these proposal templates here. It's just going to run my taxes again for the project just to make sure everything's still correct on that, and this will pull it together. Now, this document is going to be really a combination of some different elements, which we'll take you through here. And as I mentioned earlier, you can completely customize the output of this to look and feel however you want. So we've got our document here. So we've got our proposal. We've got an introduction here to the customer or client, so that can be formatted with what you want to be there and pull in the right fields. There's our project scope of work here, so we can display that and show that to the customer there. Then we can also do summaries. Now, the summaries can be done by location. They can be done by system. So we've got a breakdown here by location, and then here's our breakdown of pricing here based on that by system, or by location, then by system. We can also do it by system as well. You can see there's our system summaries there, and then once again, group by system. So you've got some flexibility on how you present it, and you can change that up, depending on the client when you go to run the report. So we've got our summary there. We can also link up drawings here, which I didn't do yet on this one, but that's there as an option. And then you've got your contract with payment terms that can be broken out. And we do support e-sign or e-signature in there. And you can also include things like your service plan or service agreement options in, and then of course about the company can be embedded in there as well. So this is just one example, of many that you can do within the system. So we have some that are simple, some that are more detailed. Sky's the limit really when it comes to the reporting side, what we can do there. And speaking of reporting, we won't get into all the details today, but we do have, the ability to run cost and profitability reports, detailed installation reports like wire pull sheets, as we mentioned, rack load reports, and of course, all of this can be transferred and created into a PO as well. So we're going to take our project here. Let's go ahead and close out the details, and let's go move back over here. So once the project has been approved by the client, we're going to go ahead and mark it as approved. It's going to move it to the one stage. It's going to mark our actual close date, and it's going to save a revision into the history. So nice thing is whenever that revision or whenever that project gets approved, it's going to create a read-only version that really nobody can mess with here in the system. So it locks it down. Now at this stage, let's go ahead and order some equipment. Let's go down here to purchase orders, and I'm going to bulk create my POs here. We'll go up here to add from project. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save this here, and then this pulls it up. So I can now see all of my stuff here that I can order for this project. We're going to select everything, add it in. Okay, so we've got that, and this shows me here on the left all of the vendors that I order those products from typically. We'll hit next. So it's actually going to create, and you'll see here in this case we've got 5 POs that are going to be created based on this, and we'll go ahead and hit finish, and that will create them. So now I just created 5 POs for this whole project just that quick, and now I can dispatch these out directly to the vendor from within the D-Tools system here if we like. So very quick, much easier process for this. And the beauty of it is, as a project manager, when I go open up this project, I can see clearly what's been ordered, what's been received. It's all being tracked here inside the system with that. Now, I did mention something earlier. I just wanted to show you that's change orders. And that's usually kind of a common sore point or pain point for people. Obviously, change orders are a fact of life, and that's where a lot of things get messed up. Miscommunications happen. We forget to charge things, and so this is a really good strong suit here within the system on how that gets managed. So I'm just going to open up this project here, and I'm just going to do it from the list. Now you can make changes from the drawing. It will track it since it's all tied to the same project file. But to show you how easy it is, let's say we want to remove something. I can come over here and select the device. I'll hit delete, and this will remove it out of this project. Now it's going to ask me, hey, this is an approved project. You need to create a change order. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now it's going to ask me for this change order one, do I want this to be an external change, meaning that it's one that the customer needs to review and sign off on? Or is this an internal change, one that we're going to eat the cost on it, we're not going to bother the customer on it? So you do get the option here, and of course you can put a reason or note here for that. Now if it is an external change, that is going to get flagged here because it hasn't been approved yet by the client. So what it does is instead of taking it out of the list, it puts this red X here on these items, and it shows it crossed out. And if I mouse over it, it tells me mark for deletion on change order one. Same thing if I make an addition here. If I do come over here and click on an item, and let's say I want to add another one to this rack one location, we'll just do that. Any changes, whether it's an addition or a subtraction, it's going to make me log it. So you can't just sneak stuff, on or off of the bill of materials at this stage of this project. So I can either make that change as a part of the change order we started, or I can make a completely separate one if we want to. I'll do the one we started. And just like before, since it's not approved yet, it's going to show it here in green with a little plus symbol, so we know that's out there pending to be added on that change order. Now this does show up everywhere throughout the system, so if I'm doing purchasing, if I'm scheduling somebody to go out for install, I can see the status or pending status for change orders here, which can be very helpful, in ordering equipment that ultimately we're not going to need, or sending somebody out with some equipment to install that ultimately the client may not want. So once again, avoiding mistakes and costly issues by tracking that. And easy to go from here. Just go up to reports, go run a document here. We can get a quick change order report based off what we just did. Choose the change order. Okay, and this change order report is going to come up, and we can send this out, get a quick e-signature from the client if we want to. And this just shows us what's been removed, what's been added, and here's the net price difference for doing that. So real easy process to manage in here, or as easy as it can get. Just add, make your changes here. We keep all of the open change orders in one place, and then we'll go ahead and mark this one as approved here. Go ahead and do that. And then once again, revision histories are sitting over here. So I can always go back and compare, where we started versus where we're at any stage based on that. So now we'll move on to the next stage here, which is we're going to talk about is task, or really managing the installation. So let's take that sample project we set up. Let's go up here to the Gantt view. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in and create some tasks here based on this project. Now we're going to ask you to choose how you want this to be kind of grouped or organized. So I'm going to do it by installation phase, and then I want to do it based on the system. So you can do by any combination of phase, system, and location. You can go up to 3 levels deep if you want to. So let's go ahead and just do those. We'll hit next. So this shows me all of my possible phases, and I can see the ones that, I'll just check off the ones here that we're actually doing on this job. Okay, and then next we've got systems here. So I can come in and I'll go ahead and select all of those. And then we'll go ahead and put this in, and then now we're ready to go. We hit finish, and this now creates all of our tasks here inside the system that we can use to do this. Now from this, we've actually got our Gantt chart, and now what we can do is we can grab the items on the Gantt chart and move it around here in the view if we want to. Now this actually is a Gantt chart that you can publish or share with the client if you like. And you can also go in and add some more details to the Gantt chart. If you slide this over, we can actually go in, we can choose names here from the list, and we can also set things as milestones. You can also set predecessors on these items too. So it's a true, fully functional Gantt chart, but once again, all tied in with the system, so we're not having to manage this outside of the main platform that we use. So just a matter of taking this, you can take all of these items here. Once we're ready and we're happy with the plan, we can convert them to tasks and now dispatch those out to the technicians out in the field when we're ready. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do that. That's now been dispatched out. Published all of our tasks. You'll see all the tasks here that have been published from the Gantt view or the Gantt chart that we just created. So now what we're going to do is jump over to our mobile install tool, and let's show you what that looks like and how it's managed from the technician side of things. So I log in, I can see my dashboard, and you'll notice that there's tasks and also service orders. So you do use the same tool for managing both project installs as well as service requests. There is also a calendar that I can view here to see what's on my schedule. And there's also a task view to show me all of my open tasks or tasks that I've been working on over the period of time I have set up here. So here's the one that we just set up, or one of them tasks that we set up from the project. Now, when I get to it, I can see all the details of the project, who it's for, where it's at. I can actually start my timer up here and start tracking time against that if we want to in the background. We jump in, we've got the ability to come in and see the items here that need to be installed. So I can go ahead and select those and I can mark them installed. Now we can also mark items as picked. So if you want to use this as a checklist for loading it up or staging it for the job, you can. And you can even go into the individual product details and either enter in things like serial numbers, IP addresses, MAC addresses, or those can be entered, back in the system or scanned in earlier, and it can just be verified here out in the field. We do have the ability to also do site items here, so we can go ahead and okay. Okay, so now that we've taken our project here from the Gantt view, now we've got all of our tasks set up and we can start publishing these out to the appropriate technicians once we assign those here inside the system. So what I'm going to do is let's go over to the mobile install tool and let's show you what that looks like from the technician standpoint. So when I log into the tool, I can look at all of my tasks that I'm working on. I've got a calendar here that can look at my schedule. I can also click on tasks and see a quick overview of what I've been working on recently. And here's the one, let's go back here to the calendar. You can also just click on the task here from the calendar, takes you right to it. And I can see, okay, who is this project for? Where is it at? And I can start working on this just by clicking the start button, and this will start running a timer here in the background that we can track. Now, if I move along to the next tab here, you'll see the timer stays up there, so I can always start and stop it as I need to. I can actually check off items here as completed as we go, so you can mark things as picked. You can also mark things as installed. Now, these are cables, so we really don't need to track things like serial numbers or IP addresses on it, but there is the ability to do that on devices where that is needed. So you can either enter in serial numbers, IP or MAC addresses from the field, or this can be scanned or entered in from the software side of things and verified out in the field during the installation process. So we do keep track of that with the date stamps. Now, site items, this is really good for once you're out in the field and if you find out, hey, there's some additional parts that we needed that we didn't spec out, or, if the scope changes, the customer wants to add something or do something additional out in the field, you can go ahead and add product or labor here on the fly. And this does work really well for service too. So you go out, you can either enter in the details here manually, or you can pull from your catalog. So if we want to come in here and add maybe a keypad, the customer asked if we could replace the keypad while we're there, we can go in there and find the item that we want to put in. And then that, breaks it down with pricing. We hit save, and that now gets added here as a pending site item. Now this will get sent back to the system, and we'll initiate a change order once it's marked as approved here in the program. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll get a signature from the customer for that change, and that now gets approved here. Now from a technician standpoint, I can also log my notes here as we go. So any notes you put in, we'll put them in the list, along with I can take photos and snap photos and upload those with notes, and that does date and timestamp and does make it available through the project here. I also have checklists. So, beyond just installing equipment, you may have some checklist items that need to be done. Could be safety checks. It could just be, commissioning checklists. You can create as many of these checklists as you want and have those included with these install or service visits inside the program. And you can just go through, check things off here as you go. And you can also update the statuses here if something is, on hold or pending. We can make a note of that, and this allows us to capture it. And this is great too for things like preventative maintenance visits and things too under a service contract. So we'll go ahead and stop our time here. So any time logged does get tracked inside the system. There's a whole timesheet area inside the program. And users can also come in and do their time entry here from out in the field, just put in a number of hours or set a start and end time, and that all gets logged here in the software. Now, back in the system, back in the main program, we do have a place where you can see all of those hours as they happen. You've got the ability to see all your actual versus estimated. Let's take a look at different time ranges here. So let's go look at maybe the last 12 months. So we can see all the data here, all the technicians that have been working on projects or service requests. You can actually filter it down by client and by project, and also by technician over here. And we can see our actual versus estimated in dollars and hours. And if I want to go into the details of those, I just scroll down below and I can find all that information down there. And this information too will be available through our business analytics area, where you can create your own custom dashboards and views here based on that on your home screen. So the next thing we'll touch on, really the last major thing we'll talk about, is service. So we do have a whole dedicated area inside the program just for the service side. There's a place where you can set up and manage service plans within the program. And I'll just open up one that's already been set up to show you the elements or details of that. So, service can be linked to a client and also a particular project you've done in the past. You can set your plan length on those, as well as your start and end term will be calculated out. And we can even include a number of allowable hours under that plan. You can choose the recurrence of that. So we're going to allow for 20 hours per year under this particular service plan. You also have your service plan items, which is going to be different charges or elements to the plan, like remote system monitoring, preventative maintenance, extended warranties. And so you can go in and structure these so that they are, can have different frequency types, everything from one time to weekly, monthly, biweekly. And what's really good about the pricing piece is it can be a fixed price on this charge. Like if I just want to charge $1,000 a year, we can do that. Or I can have it where it's calculated. So it can actually go in and I can set a way that the item is priced out based on calculations of product pricing, labor pricing, or really various different combinations of those within here. And we can also narrow this down. If you want to do all the items under that project as being covered under the service plan, you can certainly do that. But you also have the ability to select certain items. So if you only want to cover certain systems or certain locations under this service plan, you can definitely do that here. So that adds up all of your pricing details. You can also choose the items from a project that you've done before that are covered if you want to specify that. And then you also have the ability to define what your features are and, of course, all of your terms and conditions. So this does create a service plan within the system. And these can be, service plans can be set up and sold independent, or they can be linked to the project if you want to. So this can be included as a part of the proposal template if you want. So there's a whole area for managing those service plans. We can also notify you or alert you when those service plans are coming up for expiration. So if you have someone managing those, they'll be able to stay on top of those and track them all in here. And then we also have the service area. So you can also create service orders within the system. Just like before with tasks, you can go in and let's go ahead and open one of these up. So you go in and you can create a service order in the program, choose the customer and the project that it's for there. And then you go in, you can add labor to it, you can add products, you can also add repair items from that customer site. And just like we did before, you can also include checklists that can be used out in the field. So you can send those out, it can be dispatched. The field team, once again, can manage it through the mobile install tool, and that's all sent back and tracked here inside the program. So it does give you a platform to really track everything from installation to service, and everything can be completely viewed in various ways through all the business analytics that we track here within Tools SI. So everything from projects, customer pipeline information, even down to product usages. How much of what was the model that we sold the most of, sold the least of. Which customer did we do the most service visits for, in the past 6 months or a year. There's a lot of business analytics that a lot of people, put together, but takes time and it's difficult to get accurate numbers. It's all here, ready to go within the Tools SI system. Based on using this to build and manage your projects and service, we'll be able to give you all those different stats and graphs here that you can take a look at and also make visible on your home screen if you'd like to see it every day. So that's just, like I said, the general overview of Tools SI. There's certainly much more to the system and more that we can show you. So feel free to reach out to us if you'd like to have a deeper dive on any particular area of the system, and we'll be happy to assist you and see if Tools SI may be a right fit for you and your company. Thanks a lot.